Welcome, everyone, to the newly reborn Raging Buffalo podcast. This is a special edition, dare I say, an episode 0, if you will, the full sports edition, the full NFL preview and everything should be dropping at some point next week, some point before the first game. But our little special edition here is going to be a wrestling show. Scott Gattie joined by Marcos Watkins to talk AEW All Out this Sunday night, live on pay-per-view from Chicago, Illinois. How are you we're recording this in the evening. How are you, Marcos?
I'm tired. Practice has worn me out, and I haven't gotten the chance to take a shower, so I'm kind of sweaty right now. But other than that,
that's all right. We'll get everything out in this however long it may take to run through the card and through a few other things of note from Tony Khan's media scrum that was, as of this recording, earlier today. But this is September 2nd, and I suppose before we get to the more lighthearted matters, there is the elephant in the room to discuss, and is the tragic passing of the Scream Queen herself, Daphne, the great women's wrestler of the late 90s, early 2000s, WCW, TNA. I didn't watch much of her personally, but it still obviously impacted a lot of people around the wrestling community, and obviously it was a great loss for wrestling in general. If you want to read up more, you can on it. I will advise a self-harm suicide trigger warning if you do go and read up more about it. But regardless, important topic to discuss, and for anyone listening that feels in a dark place, do not hesitate to reach out to anybody. You are never alone, and I can only hope there is that much less of a stigma of mental health in general in society every day, that we can try to prevent more situations like this.
So what's interesting to me about it is I don't have any long extended memories of her per se, but I do remember the look, the gimmick, and the name, particularly that late period when she was with TNA or Impact, whatever you want to call it, TNA, which I think would have been the late 2000s. I want to say the late 2000s.
Most of the 2000s she was there,
yeah, and I think must have been there around the same time, where I could be totally wrong, so you tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember that being around the same time where women like, I think, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong were around. The Beautiful People, obviously, Velvet Sky and Angelina Love were there. That might have even been the time period, if I remember correctly, that might have been the time period Victoria, if you remember Victoria from WWE. Another, honestly, a really good wrestler who I like, and I don't think gets really talked about enough, if you remember Victoria.
Oh, like, the Knockouts have done women's wrestling fantastic forever, ever since that era, with Daphne and Gail Kim and Awesome Kong and all that. And Daphne's run went all the way through, it looks like 2008 to 2011. So she would have fallen in line with a good lot of that, and the early part of a lot of that just as well. Again, I was not a regular viewer of TNA, but regardless, I'd say she has a pretty important role in all that, and it's a trailblazer in her own right.
Listen, very sad story, but you know what? Hey, we can tell pretty much everything we need to know just by seeing the online reaction we're seeing from many in the business. I mean, you got people like Mick Foley tweeting out about how he's giving her a call and calling up her phone. Of course, Mick Foley, probably one of the nicest people in the entire business, but clearly she had a lot of people in the business that loved her, cared for her, were friends of her, knew her. It's just sad. I mean, I wish I really knew what other words to use for it but I can't think of any, unfortunately. I'm sure maybe there'll be some information that comes out later on, because obviously anytime you kind of have situations like this, I think the next question everyone kind of is just wondering, asking themselves, is why. Unfortunately, since that late TNA period, I haven't been keeping up with her, so I don't know what I don't know what she's been up to kind of ever since then. And I'm sure that's kind of
correlated at all. Unfortunately, she did have to retire because of concussion issues.
I did not know that.
I hate to think and don't want to speculate too much beyond what we had seen and heard, but yeah, it's about the extent of what I know of it there. And yeah, like you said, it's tough to come up with the words because there's unfortunately not a lot of good to come from it.
Also, wasn't aware that she trained at the power plant in WCW. I'm just finding out about that now too. I did not know that she trained there.
The tweet from the Hurricane was basically that like he taught her how to lock up. That like that was where a lot of her training came from. Was, I mean, that's where she started, was late era WCW.
Wait, so the Hurricane trained people? You telling me Shane Helms, Gregory Helms trained people at the power plant?
Yeah,
I did not know that either.
he was
Wow.
part of the roster at that time. I think he was relatively young at the time. I don't know too much about his career pre
Is he one of those
WCW,
people that's a lot older?
pre being the Hurricane.
Is he one of those people that's like a lot older than I think?
Probably, yeah.
I don't know why. I guess it's just, it's all, time is relative, especially when you were younger. But when I was seeing like, I'll never forget Hurricane and Rosie together, which I think had to have been maybe 2000. Oh dear God, 2005, 2006 was it maybe? I don't know. I guess at that time I assumed he was a lot younger than
right. I know it was 2004 because I remember the backstage promo from The Rock. That was WrestleMania 20, where like he just went down a hallway and they happened to be there. And rest in peace, Rosie.
But seriously, I will ask that though. I mean, I don't know if you know, but is there any information that's been released? Kind of just like what was she up to, or what was she working on ever since she had retired in 11?
Unfortunately, I don't think it was very much, and that might have not helped her mental health very much. And again, I don't have any more information than you do, and that's why I was sort of imploring a little bit to look up at one's own risk for any listeners there. But as far as I'm seeing after TNA, a little bit of time in Shine, I believe briefly had a stint in Ring of Honor, but couldn't really sustain it probably because of the injuries. Again, I don't particularly like speculating too much, but
a lot of people get out of the spotlight afterwards too, so understandable.
Regardless, a sad story all around. I just wanted to address that before we got to lighter matters, not only of our predictions of the All Out card, but what was mentioned in the media scrum today from Tony Khan ahead of All Out. I'm not sure what audio or video might be available of it. They do seem kind of spotty with that, but I did get a transcript and a general idea of what was discussed, and I guess there were 3 points from it that I at least wanted to bring up. The first being that, well, he got asked a lot of questions and went by them pretty quickly, and not a lot of them got followed up on. I feel like there should have been a follow-up that he's had wrestling conversations with Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Now, if this is a matter of the venue just purely running wrestling in Jerry World, if this is a matter of I don't know what this might entail.
Listen, no. I maybe, but I don't think that's possible. If anything else, what I could actually see a little bit more commonly, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but one of the Cowboys facilities, I think it's like their kind of their practice facility. Mm-hmm. I forget what in the world it is called, but basically I know that their practice facility per se is also kind of used as a secondary smaller stadium that can have some smaller events and also smaller things going on there. The Star in Frisco, I just looked it up. That's what it's called. Or no, excuse me, Ford Center. Okay, Ford Center at the Star. That's a 12,000 seat indoor stadium venue. I know about it because I believe, if I remember correctly, you're not a lacrosse guy, but I'm a lacrosse guy. Mm-hmm. I know that I saw a Premier League lacrosse game on TV there once, and I think I know I saw a Premier League lacrosse game on there at one point in time, and obviously the Cowboys use it as their facility. So I would think that would probably be a little bit more likely. That to me seems a little bit more like it could be possible. But I mean,
Maybe. I
come
think
on now, Jerry World. I mean, we're talking over 100. I mean, maybe if you cut Jerry World in half, but I don't see kind of doing the whole event and everything from there.
Right, and this is the time for the baseless speculation. Not like the story we were talking before, but this is the time for wild, fun, baseless speculation. And I don't think it's Jerry World either. Not because Tony Khan's not ambitious, but because he has stated his goal to be to run wrestling in events that normally don't hold wrestling. Thus, running in Arthur Ashe Stadium in a couple of weeks. That sort of sets part of the precedent for it. So he might be looking at that facility for that, but I don't know. I'm trying to wonder what other wrestling context conversations that are purely outside of owned venues that
so that's the only one I could. Yeah, that's the only one I could think of.
Versus Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, well, okay. Celebrity guest appearances. I mean, is maybe one. I mean, hell, bring Ezekiel Elliott out to an event. Why not? Dak Prescott come out, have a good time. I'm sure it would look good for them. Other than that, only thing I can think of, I don't know. Maybe there's a cowboy that's interested in becoming a wrestler after he's done, become the next Moose, because that's about as far as it would go for me.
You never know. Oh no, it just makes me want to just run down all the NFL rosters of who would make the best wrestler. And I mean, though at the same time, like, there's a good pedigree for that, not just because wasn't it D'Angelo Williams or somebody that had like one or two matches in TNA or Impact and was amazing, and then was just like, nah, I did it, I'm good. I think it was D'Angelo Williams. I could have swore that was the case.
I think you're thinking of Pac-Man Jones.
No, because Pac-Man Jones in his contract said that he couldn't like actually contact or wrestle anybody, but like this was a guy that actually was off the top rope, was doing some flips.
Still became a tag team champion. That's got to be the greatest championship reign of all time. Win a championship without even doing anything.
Yeah, D'Angelo Williams, 2017 episode of Impact.
Wow, I had no idea he had ever worked.
He saved Moose from an attack, so maybe it's apropos there just as well.
I guess that makes a little bit more sense. Get the football connection there. Anything else that brother said that was interesting?
He began a storyline with Austin Aries, but has not appeared since after one episode in 2018. Okay, so I don't think we're seeing D'Angelo Williams anytime soon.
No, and I heard the name Austin Aries, and I immediately yawned. So for that one.
In addition, as far as what Tony kind of mentioned in the media scrum was a possibility of more titles. The only one mentioned by name really was a trios title being a possibility down the line. But I mean, there's a few different ways this could go. I'm thinking women's tag titles.
See, that's what I assumed was going to be the more likely thing, especially considering, they're trying to basically do everything that WWE doesn't do correctly. And to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I kind of forgot WWE had women's tag team titles for a good fair amount of time now.
Yeah, they did too.
Who's the women's tag team champions right now? Do you know?
I can't tell you. I literally do not know.
Yeah, I listen to a podcast every week about wrestling, and I still can't remember. So yeah, women's would be a little bit more likely. I like trios, but personally I don't think they're always necessary, because I think it's always just better to see a faction go with the Freebird rule instead.
It's an interesting thought. I think it's a little bit different in AEW just because they do so much with factions, because you have Dark Order that's got 10 people? It feels like 10 just because they have a number 10. But they have enough people where they can hold, if they wanted to, the tag titles and the trios titles at the same time. Or like Hardy Family Office, even if they're not like the most over right now, even if they're the most interesting of characters of even for that, the most interesting right now that they can still be in contention for the trios title or something like that. So I think it would be really interesting, but I think the extent of it for me drops off after trios and women's tag, because after that, like a lot of the need for more titles that there would have been has sort of been accomplished by the Forbidden Door stuff. You've gotten the NWA women's title on screen. You've gotten the IWGP US title on AEW television, the Impact tag titles, the Impact World title, the AAA Mega title. Like, that's
maybe so, but then the issue with that becomes you can't. So I guess the issue with that would become is like, yes, we saw Christian Cage kind of beat Omega and get all the gold with Impact, but here's the thing: there's only so often you're going to be given the chance and the ability to switch titles that are not yours.
right.
If you know what I mean.
You're handling it with kid gloves that much more, the bigger stars that you're using from other companies, because they're that much more careful with them. That's why,
Exactly.
and we'll get to this in the picks. That's why Moxley's facing Satoshi Kojima and not Naito or Okada or Tanahashi.
Exactly. Now now that I think about it more and more, I've kind of talked myself into it, because as I think about it, it's like, you got two shows on national television now with Rampage and Dynamite. You got two other internet shows with Elevation and Dark. I think, you know what, and I don't want to turn this into a rag on WWE all the time thing, but the fact of the matter is, you got all that time to work with and all that availability. Why not? I think having more titles, you can help kind of make some of that time more valuable and make some of it more important, because there's something literally at stake.
True, but the more titles you have, the less important each title becomes. Like, the fewer people that hold belts, the more special it is for them that they hold belts. It's probably the same reason why they don't hot potato around the belts that they do have. That it's a matter of keeping
maybe
them
so
prestigious.
But New Japan certainly, I think, makes it work. I mean, you're talking about literally a junior heavyweight title, junior heavyweight tag teams titles, another tag teams title, never open weight, now the US championship, had the heavyweight championship, and used to have the Intercontinental Championship before they merged the two,
Right. And I don't know how I'd necessarily feel about weight divisions in AEW, because it feels right where it's at right now, that you can have 175-pound Darby Allin in the same mix along with the Lance Archers of the world.
I think it's safe to say for now, not necessarily needed, but I would say maybe in the future, if you want to kind of evolutionize a little bit. I mean, the good news is for them, they don't really have, I would say, yet that one really big star who is such a enormous size that it makes everyone else at the top look small or weak, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's certainly some guys that could be there in the future. I think Powerhouse Will Hobbs is one of them, but he's not a big time star yet.
No, I believe in him too, definitely. And I kind of want to talk about him more when we talk about how CM Punk has gone so far in AEW, which we'll probably get to with the match. But I'd say a new guy that's impressed me a lot is, I'm sort of transitioning to this as well, because it did get also brought up in the media scrum that, like, Tony Khan was really putting over Daniel Garcia, Buffalo's own Daniel Garcia. And for those that might be new to the Raging Buffalo podcast, as you can probably guess by the name, we are based in the hometown of the Butcher, the Blade, Mark Romero, Beth Phoenix, Lex Luger, and Daniel Garcia in Buffalo.
We're full of loads of talent.
Yes, we are. And it seems like it's only getting better, especially with Daniel Garcia, because I didn't know too much about him until I mean, as much as he is from around here, I never knew him when he was working the Indies. I certainly don't know him personally, but I saw him squash some jabroni on Dark, and he gave a look to the camera like he knew where I lived and was going to murder me. And I'm like, okay, this guy's going places. I was convinced by that alone, and maybe Tony Khan was too. And
yeah, the funny thing is now I can kind of claim that I have some sort of connection to two different wrestlers in AEW now.
oh, we're going to get to that other one. I know exactly what other one you're talking about, and I want to bring it up a little bit later. But yeah, it's surprising that, like, I'm almost curious of how it even happened that at 22 that he's suddenly been so selectively picked to be involved in the Punk Darby match, basically, to be involved in the storyline that is absolutely has the most eyes on it in any feud in AEW's history. The same with the guys in 2.0, you know? I mean,
I worry about it a little bit. I think you got to be careful anytime you're pushing a guy to the moon a little bit too quickly. But I will say, of the limited amount of stuff I have seen from him so far, I think he's definitely got all the basics down. You know, there's definitely talent. There's potential there. He has a pretty decent, good look. Has a really good, really good body. He may not be the biggest dude in the world, but you can tell he looks like somebody that lifts. He looks like somebody I would meet at the gym and would look like he could whoop some ass, you know?
And as much as he's not a great promo, he still has a lot of charisma in the matches themselves, and like has a lot of that intangibles that, like, it kind of reminded me of heel Kevin Owens a lot. Or at least that's the vibe I tended to get to him, of like the calculating psychopathic kind of thing. Like that's that visceral rush from that facial expression right in the camera that I was talking about from the Dark match. But I'd say he's going places, and honestly, if there's anyone I trust to not push him too far like crazy to the point of oversaturation, or if there's someone I trust to listen to the fans if he is getting pushed too much, probably be Tony Khan.
One part almost even makes me wonder a little bit if he's kind of gonna be the replacement. I think when AEW kind of got started, everyone was looking around and was like, okay, MJF, Darby, Sammy Guevara, those are your three of the future, are probably going to be kind of like your shield, like they were in WWE. Where, okay, those are our three guys that I think they'll be leaders of our company going forward in the future. And I think, not that I would say Sammy's completely out of the loop, but I think that they've kind of soured on him a little bit for a while.
Like, you think just because, I mean, what was his last feud was like the Shawn Spears thing with Pinnacle versus Inner Circle, but like he went over in that one. I mean,
no, I know, but it was Shawn Spears. No offense to Shawn Spears, but it was Shawn Spears.
I think he's built himself up pretty great in his own right, and he's found his own
a little bit, but
like, yeah, it's the mid card of AEW.
That you look at, he's just not someone I say like, okay, boom, you went over Shawn Spears, that's big time.
Right? Yeah, it's all coming in steps. I don't think they've soured on him. I think they're like waiting on him. I think they're taking their time with him, as opposed to MJF. That's a lot more in the spotlight, as opposed to Darby.
Yeah. Keep in mind, I'm not saying he's buried. There's a big difference, okay? There's a big difference between buried and soured on a little bit. Part of me even kind of wonders if maybe, we talk about more titles. Maybe when the time comes that they do eventually kind of get like a cruiserweight, juniorweight title, he'll be the guy that they kind of wanted to be the stalwart and lead it.
That could be, yeah. Him and Darby. I obviously wouldn't call MJF really cruiserweight.
No, I'm talking about Sammy here still.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a possibility. As much as like I've only just been feeling women's tag and trios titles for new titles. I'm sure if they came up with a cruiserweight title, they could find some way to make it work. But it also doesn't seem particularly AEW. But we'll see. They gotta have something coming up for him, unless they're just giving him a break to plan his wedding. Since he did just get engaged and all, Sammy did.
Oh, well, hey, props to him. Who's the lucky lady?
That was like on Dynamite or just before it, like in the ring. He proposed
I must have
with the
missed
ring
that.
in the ring.
Was it on Twitter?
I don't know if it's on Twitter. Probably in his vlog. Everybody in AEW's got a vlog now. I think that's the one thing I don't like. It feels like everybody's just trying to do BTE, and like the extension of watching BTE gives you clues into the storyline is now extended to now you have to watch everybody's vlog just to understand what's going on. Like, I don't think it's reached that point yet. I'd hate for them to overdo it in that way. It is something I might worry about, though.
That's been a common complaint I think many people have made, kind of even going back to when this whole thing started long before the company was formed.
I gotcha. But nonetheless, I think there's a lot to be excited about with the card itself. And what do you say we get into the predictions for the card itself?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this is probably a card that I am most excited for, honestly, in quite a while. And I mean, I was excited for the Money in the Bank one that happened not too long ago in WWE, but I
Right.
think more of that had to do with seeing a pay-per-view for the first time. Technically, WrestleMania was in front of a crowd, but you know what I mean.
Right. The return to fans. Yeah.
Right. The return to fans as it was with Money in the Bank. I think this is probably the first time I'm excited for like a true card, really, really in a long time. I mean, I enjoyed Double or Nothing, but even I kind of knew like, and I liked guys like Pac and Orange Cassidy, versus Kenny Omega, but I still believe that there was kind of more further that Kenny can take himself, and I think he's done that so far. Also, by the way, do you like the black hair color change for Kenny? Or do you kind of prefer the
I feel like
older?
I'm supposed to hate it. Like I feel like that's exactly what he's going for. Like the same with the awful facial hair and the gaudy outfits of him and the Bucks. Like it's so ridiculous that I feel like I have to hate it. Yeah,
I mean, he is a heel after all.
he is. He is. And he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job at it. But why don't we start at the top of the pre-show as far as the predictions go? Not that there's too much consequence to the 10-man tag team match. That is Best Friends, Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, and Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy versus the Hardy Family Office, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Angelico, and Jack Evans. I feel like this is just going to be like warming the crowd up while they're still getting to their seats, while they're still in line. Like,
well, listen, it's
is
the classic. It's the classic. We really didn't know where to put y'all, and we kind of had to stick y'all somewhere. So yeah, here you go. Because
honestly, I think
there
it's
are
okay.
over people here, like obviously Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus,
Oh
Orange
yeah.
Cassidy. They're all over, but I guess they just couldn't really figure out what they wanted to do with them as far as All Out's plans go.
And I mean, I think it's good to have some lighter matches that,
Of
because
course,
like think about if the replacement for this, if it was just switched up by the week and like FTR versus Santana and Ortiz was here on the pre-show and you missed that 20-minute classic because you haven't actually bought the pay-per-view yet because you don't think it had started, or like you missed it because the line was so long getting into the arena. Just I wouldn't dare have wanted to miss that with how great it was last night. And it's good to have. This is basically the 10-man tag here is like a main event on Dark. You're technically not sure who you think is going to win because I guess it could go either way, and it doesn't feel by itself that it advances very much, even though it might in a really long-term kind of thing. I suppose this is just an easy one where the faces go over, and it's just going to be Best Friends and Jurassic Express in this one.
yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. Hey, I gotta know though. It's hard for me to keep up religiously. What in the world kind of happened to Jungle Boy? Because last time I was checked, my dude had won a shot at the world title. Now he's in a match on the pre-show. What in the world happened to my man?
So I'll actually go back to the media scrum for this. That Tony Khan doesn't like the idea that of the pre-show being an insult. Basically, he thinks that if you're on the pay-per-view card, you're on the pay-per-view card, and you're still thought of like highly. And even then, you could tell there's not much room because, as I mentioned, the great
Okay,
tag
no
team match.
offense. That's Tony Khan thinking in a very optimistic way.
It's his PR, yeah. And no, I get what you mean. I mean, I guess the kayfabe of that is he lost that title match and went back down the rankings, and that he's got to work his way back up through the pre-show to the mid-card to fight for the world title again, whether Kenny has it at that point or not.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think for a second that I didn't think they were going to put him over Kenny Omega or anything like that. Wasn't really expecting that, but I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel, I feel as if he's someone with a lot of potential who, especially at that time when he had won that battle royal, was very, very over.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if, the fans have kind of realized, is he going to be kind of like a Dolph Ziggler where like he's just always kind of be in that certain spot? Nothing to be ashamed of that spot, but a good worker who they get behind, but it's just going to be in a certain spot. And because of that, kind of loses their luster a little bit.
I think because there's only so many spots that guys like that, at least for certain periods of time at a time, feel inevitable. But I feel like you phase guys in and out. AEW's, giving guys time off, able to recycle guys in different ways in different times of going in and out on the card, that Jungle Boy will be back up closer to the top before they know it. They clearly think highly of him. They're not. I think I know what you mean as far as the air quotes, the Dolph Ziggler of that. And I do think it's a little funny that it's kind of like been its own curse.
And I'd certainly listen, because here's the thing. I also don't believe they can do the Jurassic Express gimmick forever. I would like to see what would happen one day if Jungle Boy can kind of pull in 180 and maybe try something different and pull off the heel card and start wearing a suit, and why not? I think honestly that could work one day.
Maybe. I mean, I don't doubt it. I think I'm curious to see where that something like that might go, and it does feel down the line regardless, just because Jurassic Express is over as they are.
Oh yeah, no, don't bring them up tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, no, listen, and I again not ragging WWE, but I'm not for like just immediately breaking up people randomly out of nowhere.
Mm. Right, and how do you turn somebody to feud them with Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt? Like it's a challenge. I'm curious as to how they do it, but at least for the time being, this is just a lighthearted, get everybody in their seats, make the crowd a little happy kind of match. So I'll pick the faces for this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as the next one, I'm not gonna lie. I'll let you go first.
We're gonna get both the bathroom break matches out of the way right now.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love. I guess can we still call him Big Show? I love Big Show.
For our sake here, we can call Paul White the Big Show. Yeah, Paul White versus QT Marshall is the next matchup we're talking about.
Big Show, listen, he's veteran, legend of the entire industry.
Absolutely.
One of the nicest guys. People always say it.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit he does look good. He's certainly lost a lot of weight and stuff like that, which, particularly for a guy who's been that big for that long, I'm happy to see it. Good for him. Had his own Netflix show and everything, even though I heard kind of not so good things about it, but I highly doubt that was his fault. Because Big Show's a very entertaining guy, in my opinion. I think he can, he's more than just.
I feel like this is all leading to but.
Well, it's more so, it's just, I don't know, man. When I saw that was going to be the match, and this is All Out, which, I guess we should technically still be debating what is supposed to be the biggest show of the year, All Out or Double or Nothing. I mean, I personally think it's supposed to be All Out. I don't know. I saw that and I don't know. it's something about it doesn't feel right to me. And maybe it's because I'm just not completely sold on QT Marshall in particular. Right. I would like to think they're going to put him over here. And in one way, I think it's good that, hey, it's an established veteran. It'll make QT look strong. And will the match be bad? Probably not. Probably won't be great, but it won't be horrible because, you got two people in there that know what they're doing. But
I disagree here. I think they're going to, it's a marquee match with a big name. I think they're going to give Paul White the win here. Really? I feel pretty confident in that. What's that?
You really think they'll put Big Show over?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think it's necessary, right? Like why? Like Big Show's not going to be doing this on a full-time basis.
The crowd is going to be watching this.
What happened?
Most of the crowd has seen enough Big Show matches and don't care much for QT Marshall, and I think they ought to be aware of that.
Well, sure, but at the same time, I mean, again, do you really want to hurt a name that is not established yet per se, at least not on the level Big Show is for, I guess, getting what would be at least in decent, okay pop?
I mean, who cares? QT Marshall is more important backstage than he is as a wrestler anyway.
Maybe so. It's sort of. I just think, man, I don't know.
I think you put Big Show over here. That's my pick, and I will respectfully disagree with you on that, but I think I'm pretty set in my decision there.
Hey, well, I'll say one thing. You know what? If he gets it, I'm happy for him. Mm-hmm. But I also just don't really know. I don't really know if I'm one that can also say I'm excited to see the match per se.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be in the bathroom for it. I don't doubt that at all. That was just my prediction. I'm not going to watch it. I want to watch the rest of the matches.
Well, there we go. It shouldn't be a bathroom break match in what is supposed to be your most important show of the year.
I think every show should have a bathroom break match because humans are watching it, and when you gotta go, you gotta go.
I see. No, I think it's better off not to do a bathroom break match, but rather do whether it be a segment or a promo or something like that instead.
I don't. That also feels kind of like filling time. Feeling like and what are you gonna promote? This is supposed to be the culmination. This is the finale. You do your promoting in the Fallout. You do the promoting in the Dynamite after the fact.
Well, hey man, listen. I ain't Dusty Rhodes. All right, I'm not the booker here. That's for the booker to figure out.
Yeah, I'm not any more of an expert than you are, but I feel like I'm just going by my guts here that it's okay to have a bathroom break match, just because I want to see all of the rest of these matches. And that includes the Battle Royal, which thankfully was moved up from the pre-show. I did
not know that it was originally on the pre-show. Wow.
Well, because the main card was going to have Pac versus Andrade Alidolo, and then Pac.
Right. Was it Andrade? Oh no, it was Pac that. Did he get COVID? Was it COVID?
No, he's dealing with travel issues because...
Oh, travel issues. Right, right. My bad.
The kayfabe of it, I imagine, is that, Andrade has been messing with Death Triangle's travel plans through this whole feud, so it only makes sense that he'd do it again for the big match. But in reality, it is a matter of Pac still lives in the UK, and that there are new travel restrictions because of COVID that were put in place in the UK that makes it a lot tougher for him to go back and forth.
While we're mentioning travel, shout out to, or not even necessarily a shout out, but just also want to say anyone that is experiencing any issues from Hurricane Ida, hey, my best wishes to you. Hope you're staying safe. I don't know about you, Scott. I got a lot of friends in New York City, so fortunately everything's been going good so far, but dangerous, scary situation out there, whether it's in that area, whether it's in New Orleans. If anyone that's been affected at all, hope you're staying safe.
Mm-hmm. I'll say Philly got hit hard. from some pictures I saw of it like being crazily flooded. But I digress there. Yes, hope everybody is staying safe in the
Speaking of the Battle Royal, I'm happy to see Anna Jay back. I did see her return last night on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm. And I think she'll be a big factor in the Battle Royal. I mean, do you want to pick who you think will be the because everybody has been announced aside from the Joker, aside from the mystery participant, and I think the dirt sheets have kind of revealed who that mystery participant is likely to be.
Do not spoil it for me because I have not looked at the dirt sheets yet.
Okay, I mean, I can say one of two options, but you know what? Okay, I will leave it there. But either way, I don't think the Joker is going to be the winner.
Okay, so
Of
that
the
now,
Battle Royal?
yeah, if it was going to be the winner, that would be a different story.
For anyone who listening who has read it, what the rumors are, that's who I think will be the Joker. But as far as the winner, I mean, who do you have for winning the Battle Royal?
You know, it's a little rough for me because I'm almost fighting against what I want to happen and who I want to win. Because let me tell you, so when I look at their division, I immediately there's a lot of talent else all over the place. There are two people in particular that stand out to me that I think are future stars, and I like future champs. You could strap the division to them; they'll do great. I think Jamie Hayter is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, of course, she is paired up with DMD right now,
Right.
and I don't think it's the right time to do a turn.
Oh, it's just only started. Yeah, you give that
Yeah,
some time to
exactly.
marinate.
So
Yeah.
that is probably for the future, but I did want to call that out because I think Hayter is great.
Right. If
She
they,
is, anytime I see her in the ring, I mean, she really reminds me of, and obviously she's not the exact same thing, but she's almost very Big Van Vader esque when
ooh,
she is
okay.
in the ring.
All
Yeah,
right.
she is like a total freaking ass kicker in that ring. Almost anything she does, it, it it may not always be completely, but it feels very stiff and it looks very good. And
I'm with you. I feel it.
she's a
Yeah.
bit more bigger than some of the other women on the roster too, from a size standpoint. And so I think she's absolutely a future star. So I can't wait to the day that comes that she actually does finally turn on Brit. And I've been seeing her getting a lot of love online. So I think she could easily be one of those that I think that people would easily buy into her being a top face, but we're not there yet. The other one, I don't think is going to happen with this one either, but I do think Tay Conti is going to be another big time star in the future as well. Not as good in the ring, I think, as Jamie, but still good enough that I think she could be champion. And she has also been getting some relatively good reactions. Got an okay reaction on
Yeah,
Dynamite
she's
last
over.
night. The people certainly do know her. She's had a really good record. I
Mm-hmm.
think they said she was 24-7. I think after last night's win, she's 25.
Right. Racking up a bunch of wins on Dark as you do, but I think Ty Conti's winning this. Honestly,
You
that's
think
my pick.
so?
Because this is for the next shot. A little bit of a spoiler to a future pick of mine, but I think Britt Baker is retaining against Chris Statlander, which would mean that the next contender is probably going to be a face to go up against Britt Baker. And if it's Jamie Hayter, you're going to get a finger poke of doom situation, which there's a way to do it, but the precedent says you definitely shouldn't do that. Um,
See, the only
and
reason I didn't want to go with that pick is because one, if it does end up being Ty, I don't think it's the right time to take the title off Britt yet.
right, and Ty would get the shot, but Ty wouldn't win.
Yeah, and I think
Uh,
that kind of hurts the momentum of your baby face a little bit, doesn't it?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's another thing Tony Khan has very much been about, that you can still build people in losses. AEW has been really good about making people look good even when they lose.
Maybe
Like,
so. And I guess that's also true too. I always think of I always think back though, and what I'm always so scared of, and you might remember this too, and others might remember this. I think it was 2009, one of those late 2000 years, and Jeff Hardy was super over, and they ended up having him wrestle Randy Orton for the title at Royal Rumble in Madison Square Garden at that. And let me tell you, I watched that pay-per-view. I remember it specifically. I was pissed off. I was still kind of believing it was real. And he ended up having 2 championship matches, one with Edge and one with Randy. And Edge beat Rey Mysterio, and Randy beat Jeff Hardy. Now, granted, I think one of the reasons they didn't put the title on Jeff because he was actually going away for a suspension soon after that. But point is, and he did eventually get his title win. But the point is, when that loss happened, the wind was almost kind of taken out. The air was almost kind of taken out of the room in Madison Square Garden that night. And I always
that's not to say that losses still can't have a profound effect. It certainly affected a lot of people when Hangman and the Dark Order lost their respective title shots in the big 10-man elimination match, and that was for the main babyface going away too, because Hangman's on paternity leave. Otherwise, he'd probably be taking the title off Kenny right now. But and that almost speaks more to the point, because like I think Jeff Hardy did all right for himself. I think he's still pretty over. I think he still got pretty over all that time. And I think it's easy to rebound even after a loss, especially a high-profile loss. So I am still confident that Ty Conti is winning this Women's Battle Royal, that she, I don't want to say gets fed to Britt Baker after Statlander, but basically I think Thunder Rosa is going to be the one to take the title off Britt Baker, and they're saving that for further down the line.
Right. I'll tell you what, I'll put my pick as that too. And at the end of the day, it'll all come down to if they're not going to give her a win over her, then it all comes down to how do they do the loss for Ty, and obviously how do they treat Ty in the aftermath.
Right, and I think they'll do that well. I know you said you didn't want to be spoiled and you haven't read of who would be the Joker. Who do you think is going to be the Joker?
Is there any chance it would be someone that was just on the NWA Empower show?
Like, are you asking me of what the...
I'm asking for a hint. Was it somebody that worked the NWA Empower card?
I don't think so. I did not watch Empower.
You did not?
I don't think so.
My friend, you must give it a shot.
I know I should. I'm sure I will. But just on your gut, who do you think it might be?
Well, look, I'll definitely need a bit of a hint here, because I'm trying to think. Is it someone that's currently already signed to the company, that's appeared in the company?
I mean, if they are, we don't know about it. Maybe.
Well, what I mean is so it's not a return, like someone that's worked in AEW already and is returning now to it.
Actually, it could be, because, like, again, these are just rumors, and
okay, but so the rumors though is it like, okay, the rumors are saying it's this one person, or it's a bevy of different number of people?
The rumors were saying someone got signed to AEW, and the correlation was to her being the Joker. I will say one that's completely a possibility I thought of that's completely unrelated to any of the rumors was that Serena Deeb's been healing up from her knee injury pretty well, so she might be coming back. It might be Serena Deeb.
That could be possible.
Mm-hmm. But if you'd like a more blatant hint, see, early September is about 90 days removed from some other big...
that was going to be my next guess. Is it anyone from WWE that just left or has gotten released?
I mean, a lot of people have gotten released. So
I know.
Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?
I say that in understanding that there's a lot of good women. There's a lot of good talent, period, that they released. But definitely some women I would have loved to have seen getting another shot. You know,
like who?
Well, Ruby Riott was one, and I guess that's
Mhm.
one that wouldn't really surprise me at all if she showed up. I liked the Iconics, but we're only talking about one person here. I'm
Right.
trying to
There's only
think
one.
who in the world else that they released.
One that I just realized as well, CJ Perry, the former Lana, certainly
Oh,
has gotten a few
dear
shout
God,
outs on
is he?
AEW television.
If that's the one, then I'm just gonna lay down in a ball and cry. No disrespect to Lana, she's a very nice person, but she's a terrible wrestler.
Oh,
She is. Come
maybe
on now.
maybe she can learn a lot more from all of this. But I get what you mean, but also like it's a possibility of several. So what
I
you
mean,
said,
come on now, my brother. They literally were having the girl win matches by doing nothing. Like at that point, that's me feeling like they're saying, "Yeah, you suck."
I mean, some of that could also be the politicking of WWE. Like, yeah, Lana wasn't the most polished, but she wasn't Eva Marie. Anyway, let's. I would like to continue to talk about good wrestlers and good wrestling.
Of
If we
course, my money's
um,
on Ruby Riott. That's what I'm gonna stick with.
okay, so Ruby Riott, maybe Serena Deeb, maybe Lana. Those seem to be the front runners for the Joker, and then we're both picking Ty Conti to win the Royal.
Yep, that's where my
All right.
money's going.
Chris Jericho versus MJF. If Jericho loses, he never wrestles in AEW again.
Man, why is that
Now,
so early in the card?
I feel I'm predicting that this is the order I sent this to you in the DM as far as like just the list of the card and the order we'd be tackling these matches in. Is the order has not been confirmed on what this is doing. I just know that Jericho insists most of the time on either going first or going last, and this is a pretty
Good
important
point.
match for him, so he might have some leverage. And I feel like this is your hot open to the main show is Jericho MJF.
That's certainly possible.
Mhm. And I think MJF takes it. I am like 75% sure that this is the end of Jericho's AEW run for wrestling.
Man, now see, I dig it because I think that's a great one to give to MJF, but I don't know. To just think that right now that this could be the last time we see Jericho in the ring, I just
In AEW ring. They did specify that. Now, AEW does keep their promises as far as stipulations. Cody still isn't challenging for that world title even after 2 years. So I feel like the way around this is something like the Jericho Cruise, which technically isn't an AEW event, international waters, baby, and he brings in Lance Storm for something or other, or he makes another run in WWE. But like, I was torn about this, and this is why I say 75% because he's about to go on tour with Fozzy. He's literally going to be in Buffalo in a couple of weeks, but none of the tour dates are on Wednesdays.
ooh.
So there's sort of a little back and forth there on it that he could still salvage his career. And if he's got any say in it, he just might. But
Yep. I mean, the good news is knowing this, it's Jericho. And Jericho is definitely someone who can give you value even outside the ring.
right. I've had mixed feelings on his commentary. He's had his moments that he's been pretty good in it. But
Yeah, but even if we're just talking like backstage stuff, as a guy to be a backstage leader, help
Mhm.
people figure things out. I mean, I could easily see Jericho being a booker. I think he's that smart of a wrestling mind that I would not mind Jericho being someone who helps book.
Wait, like I mean, final decision on everything in AEW is Tony Khan, unless you mean like he helps book in another company or like starts his own. So
Well,
just so he can
it
wrestle
doesn't
again.
it doesn't mean that Tony cannot have someone be his second.
Okay. I think I get what you're saying here. Creative consultant and everything like that. It's possible. I also think MJF takes this and that Jericho retires because of how strongly MJF has been your old high school football rival. We said we would get to it, and this is getting to it. But like,
It was barely a rival because he played for Plainview JFK, and they stink. They stink to this day.
the team was bad, but at least he can belt out a Broadway number.
I will give him credit. He was the only player we were concerned about from their team. The only one.
Oh,
Kid knew how to move. I'll give him credit. He was short, but he could tackle worth a damn, and he was a ball hawk. He was always to the ball.
says something. There you go. Little.
That is exactly what you want. Listen, that's exactly what you want in your linebackers.
Mm-hmm. Little fun fact: high school linebacker MJF, who he does not provide much of a window into his own life, so it is interesting to get this perspective on the matter. But I mean, now that he's in AEW, he's literally only lost once the world title match to Jon Moxley. That's it as far as like singles matches, one-on-one. Like he's booked crazy strong. That's why I don't put it past him to go 4-0 against Jericho and retire him, air quotes, retire him in this sense. So I'm going MJF.
Yep, I would put my money there too as well. I do believe, I don't know. I don't know totally if I can see it actually being Jericho's last match in AEW. But I at the same time, I also think, you know what? It's wrestling. There are ways to get around things.
I don't think they're going to try to get around it, so to speak. But like that's basically where my doubt comes in of why it might be Jericho. But like I said, 75%, I'm saying MJF. In the next match on the card, or presumably, or just in the list I threw up here, Jon Moxley in a little NJPW exhibition against the leader of the Bread Club, Satoshi Kojima. This is one I'm pretty much locked into. If you had to give me one match that I knew for sure how it was going to go, it's that Moxley's going up. Moxley's winning this one. And that's no knock on Kojima either. That's just like...
Yeah, no, it's pretty obvious. But you know what? I love this. I've been loving seeing the Japanese talent coming over and being a part of the company. I loved it when Yuji Nagata came around. I'm a big fan of his, and very much so also a really big fan of Satoshi Kojima. In my opinion, one of the more underrated top talents in Japanese wrestling of the last 20 years. Someone who honestly should have probably gotten more shine, and in my opinion didn't, because I don't know if you know this or not, but was basically kind of a guy who was on top during one of the more lesser times for the company in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
We could do the New Japan history lesson later and stuff like that, but a very much underrated talent, a guy who's actually had a lot of experience wrestling over here in America too. For those who don't know, I mean, was the very first MLW champion. So he's had a lot of experience over here in America as well. I'm sure it'll be a nice, decent match. He's obviously in his older age nowadays,
right?
But he can still go. I believe it was either last year or this year's Wrestle Kingdom, which is the top show for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He actually took a match on short notice. I believe it was wrestling Kenta, or Hideo Itami, as some people might know him as, at Wrestle Kingdom. So he can still go, and I'm sure it'll be a okay, decent match. If this ends up being the order, it's probably more so to have something that is a little bit more easy to take in and be more bearable after what could be a really big time emotional moment and match prior to it. So, and hey, good way to welcome John back with a win.
All right, so I was gonna say you're predicting that as well, locking in.
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's probably the easiest one of the night.
Mm-hmm. All right, the TNT Championship match, God's favorite champion, the Redeemer Miro versus the Mad King Eddie Kingston. This
it's sad because I really love what I've been seeing from Miro, but I think we all know who's got to win this one.
Oh, I'm pretty split on it, honestly. I am.
Really?
I think a Miro win elevates him to a new level that he hasn't really got from a lot of the challengers he's had so far from the TNT title. But Miro has had enough of a run that it's gotten him pretty sufficiently over that he can still do well without it. And this would be a big win for Eddie Kingston. Honestly, I can kind of see it going either way.
I'm sure it could, but to me, I think it has to go to Eddie.
Why is that?
He's been so great lately and has been over for actually quite a while now. And I think honestly, he really should have gotten that tag team title win at Double or Nothing. It was just a matter of John Moxley's going away.
Right.
You know, had it not been that Moxley was going away and taking care of his child, and which I totally understand that, I fully believe Eddie Kingston and Moxley would have won the tag titles from the Young Bucks at that pay-per-view. The fans, in my opinion, wanted that so bad, so hard, and have honestly stuck behind Eddie so hard this year. Like this has been honestly an incredible year for him. It really has been. And I think this can kind of be their way of saying, you know, hey, sorry, didn't happen this time, but we'll give you this one.
Right. No, I do. Again, I'm seeing all the roots for why Eddie Kingston should deserve the title, and for why it's likely that he's gonna be winning it. But it's just as counteracted by the great run that Miro is having, and how having bigger and better competition, like bigger names to beat, can be better for him. I
You know,
think that's what I'm
I
gonna
know
just.
you might not be a big fan of it, but there's no reason you can't do a little hot potato for a little bit. I mean, there's no. I personally think that's not too bad. I mean,
Me
sometimes
neither. I just know that AEW doesn't do that. They really
very true.
haven't in their history.
I think if there's one title you can kind of do that with, though, it's your mid card title.
So you think Eddie will win it and then give it right back to Miro then?
Not
Or
necessarily. I just think that's a way that if you want to not keep it too far from Miro, but also get a big win at the big pay per view with Eddie, you can do both.
all right. So we're both taking Eddie, but I'm still tentative with it. I'm real close with it. All right. We got 4 more matches, and they're the big ones, as if the TNT Championship match wasn't already big enough. I think the tag team titles might actually main event. Like, it's got the cage, it's got the big stipulation, it's going to tear the house down, and AEW loves tag team wrestling so much, it might as well be their main world title. Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros in a steel cage for the tag team titles. This is the other one I'm super split on. This is the other one I literally have no idea which way it's going to go. And I think this title changes hands too. I think this goes to the Lucha Bros.
Yeah, I think it's one of the harder ones. It's probably to be honest, even with CM Punk being back, I think this is actually the match I'm the most excited for from what we'll see in ring.
Oh God, absolutely.
To me, it just sounds like a match made in heaven. I mean, Lucha Bros, Steel Cage, Young Bucks together, Pentagon and Phoenix. I freaking love those guys. I don't know if you were a Lucha Underground fan, but let me tell you something. I was, and I love these two. I think they're honestly one of the best tag teams in the world. And if it wasn't for the fact that they're also incredibly great singles too, I think they would be able to continue to show that to more people more often. Because I also think that they're also just incredibly great on their own as well.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that they're both amazingly innovative. I did not watch Lucha Underground, but I still can obviously see how great they are as a tag team and individually.
Everyone in the
Well,
comments typing how much they're mad at you right now just for saying that.
oh, that I didn't catch Lucha Underground. There's a lot of wrestling out there, all right? Like, I'm watching my AEW. I'm whatever. It's fine. I'll get it at some point.
I'm sure it's got to be for free somewhere now, especially
Yeah,
since it hasn't come back
I'll
in
catch it.
4 years.
But I guess the catch with the Lucha Bros is that I hear that as a general rule, they like staying in Mexico and just sign 1-year deals at a time, so that it's tough to like book them super long term. And I think that's my only worry of why the Lucha Bros might not get this title win, or that it might be hot potatoed.
Yeah,
That's the big
I
split,
could
the big rift.
easily see that. I could easily see that. I think they're very much kind of similar, kind of what Kota Ibushi was like a few years. Not now, but if we were to go back, like I would say 5-6 years ago, like I'm talking when he was working the Cruiserweight Classic in WWE.
Right.
And I don't think people realize not only was he doing that at the time, he was still working New Japan. I think he may have been working another promotion in Japan. Might have been DDT still at the time. I can't remember what the name of
He
it
took a
was.
couple NXT matches too.
Yeah, but it was the rumor of why, like, even though he was wrestling big matches, he was in the Cruiserweight Classic. He had wrestled a big match in Wrestle Kingdom against Shinsuke Nakamura. The reason why at that time they never really strapped the title to him was because he was that type of guy who was always kind of just doing his own thing and was freelancing around. So, yeah, I could easily see that kind of being a similar situation here too with the Lucha Brothers, and also probably there is, I think, in Mexico particularly, there is this element of wanting to stay loyal to some of those big time companies down there, like AAA and CMLL, which is another big one down there.
Or whatever's left of CMLL. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever is left of
Which mean,
CMLL. Not to mention that, let's face it, a lot of Mexican wrestlers have come up, to the American companies and seeing, unfortunately their luck doesn't always is not always so great. Hey, you can ask Andrade on that one; he'll tell you all about it, I'm sure.
I mean, that's part of what AEW is trying to change as well. They're trying to get out of the Vince McMahon idea of every luchador is Rey Mysterio, and like trying to get out of that to make them more distinct and to help them out better and individually. But I suppose besides that, do you think the Lucha Brothers are getting the title here, irrespective of kind of that baggage that we're talking about here, or do you think they win it, or do Young Bucks retain?
Oh, this is such a tough one.
It is.
You know what? It's All Out. It's the biggest event. I say do it. You know what? I say do it. Give it to them. Let them continue to rival actually with the Young Bucks after it.
What stipulation do you put on the next match then? If you had obviously the great ladder war that they did, and then the cage match here, how do you up the ante for more crazy spots for Young Bucks and Lucha Bros?
Well, I'd like to honestly, I don't have an idea, but I would like to see AEW almost kind of think of like if they could come up with their own idea for a different match style or structure. Something that could really raise the stakes.
Curious of how they might.
I know they think we're all out of ideas in wrestling nowadays, or all ideas are just kind of like carbon copies of another, just using different different rules or different structures or whatever. But I'd like to see something like that.
I mean, I would too. I'm just where they might go with it, that it might somehow get crazier than a tag match in a cage, and whatever they're gonna do on Sunday night. 3 matches left to go, and these might be a little bit easier to predict. Actually, I mean, I have it pretty set, like 90% that Britt Baker is going to beat Chris Statlander. Well, unfortunately, like I'm a big fan of Chris Statlander, but Britt's kind of just started her run and she's doing pretty great in it. And we've only just seen, like, Jamie Hayter's only just started becoming the muscle for Britt Baker. There's probably a lot more character-wise that Britt can do with Jamie and vice versa before she drops the title, before anything like that. So I have very little to no reason to believe that Britt Baker wouldn't go over here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't really disagree there. It's a damn shame because I like what I've seen in Statlander too, and I think again, it's another one where clearly a lot of people are behind her as well. But it's not the right time to really take the title off, and it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type situations. More so because I always keep thinking about the fact that, you mentioned earlier, trying to always keep people up, keep people doing well, even if they end up losing that one big match. And yet you can do that. I wonder, does that get any harder, though, when you have more people that you have to do that situation with? This is not in any way a direct comparison, but let's not forget what we were like in a few years ago situation where Brock Lesnar was the champion and basically went on and beat every single person until it was basically Roman Reigns was your only valid opponent left.
I don't think AEW is going to have that same problem. Like I said, this is a collision course for Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa to meet up again and to have a big, long rivalry and eventually have the title change hands there. And I don't think anyone that is in Britt Baker's way on the way to that will still be fine in due time. They're just taking that loss to build themselves back up again and contend again with Statlander, with Ty Conti, with whoever might be after that to take on Britt Baker. I'm even just looking through the Casino Battle Royale participants right now of who it might be if they sign Kiera Hogan and she gets built up more from there, or like Diamante, or like if there's a feud between Rebel and Jamie Hayter. That could actually be its own interesting little turn. But
yep. I guess the other question comes too is, so does she win this match with by submission in the end? I mean, do you think that hurts Statlander at all if she ends up tapping?
She uses one of Adam Cole's moves the same way he used the lockjaw. I think that's what she does. I think that's the finish. I think that's what she does.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If they end up using Petey Williams' move again, it better be as a finisher this time.
God. They do that a lot, don't they?
I'm tired of seeing that Canadian Destroyer as a setup, man. It kind of gets on my nerves. I'm not going to lie.
It is a shame, but oh well. Last two matches, I mean, is it a foregone conclusion as well that Kenny Omega retains against Christian Cage? Like, I have this,
I would say so.
Because the whole arc of like the 2 years is that Hangman's going to be the one to take it off of Kenny, but like there is still something to the story here. Like Christian has beaten Kenny. He's the first one to beat Kenny in forever. So like Christian's got a say in this whole thing. Like I'm 95% sure Kenny's retaining, but there's a 5% here.
What's crazy is we say that and Hangman ain't even on the damn card.
Well, yeah, like I said, paternity leave. Like he's watching his family right now. He's taking care of his family.
Hey,
so
credit
for that matter.
Credit to
absolutely, him. And credit to AEW for letting him.
But I think we all pretty much realized once Christian won that one match for the Impact World title, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Kenny's gonna get his win back here. It wouldn't make any sense to obviously have your champion drop both his titles, especially with the year Kenny's been having. So that's pretty much the foregone conclusion there. But the good news is, hey, two Canadians who know how to wrestle the hell out of themselves. It'll be a damn good match. I mean, these two know how to go. I just keep thinking to myself, I'm like, I still cannot believe. I'm still in a little bit of a daze and a shock that Christian Cage is in this company when I think about it, to be honest with you, because it's just like
sent the crowd.
That is a man I thought was going to be a lifer. especially as long as Edge was there. I thought he would be a lifer at the company up north.
Yeah, like even in spite of the great TNA run he had.
Yeah, well, think about it. Even with the TNA run that he had back in the day, he's always been very strange when talking about it. Like in my opinion, it's always kind of felt like he's never been like excited or happy about that run because he's never really talked a whole lot about it. At least from what I remember.
Well, hell, he's gonna have another chance at it, isn't he?
Well, yeah, certainly now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously, and again, I'm not inside his head. I don't know. And I would like to think that he was happy and excited, that he was happy with his run there. I mean, it was really truly the first time he ever got a chance to be big time, truly be one of the top guys. And let me tell you, he was. I don't know if you remember this, but in TNA at that time, there was an announcer by the name of Don West. And he used to have these brown bag deals he would sell on the TNA shop website. And I'll never forget, he did one where you got the whole entire pay-per-view DVD set of the year 2006 along with a signed Jeff Jarrett card. And I actually had that set and that card. I own that to this very day.
Oh.
And let me tell you, 2006, I go back and I watch it. 2006 was truly an incredible big year for them. It was the first year that they ever went 2 hours on Spike TV. It was the year Kurt Angle came into the company. Sting had returned to the company by then. And Christian went on his title run and actually won the NWA World title by beating Jeff Jarrett at Against All Odds. He had a pretty good, decent rivalry right after that with Abyss that probably a lot of people either don't remember or don't talk about. But let me tell you, it was a very good rivalry that he had with Abyss. They had some really good matches. One day I'll show you the one they had at Lockdown 2006. One of the best matches that year. AMW, America's Most Wanted, was still a tag team, at least up until the end of the year there. LAX, the original one with Homicide and Hernandez, had entered. Samoa Joe was still in his undefeated reign and didn't lose it till later on, against Kurt Angle in what was one of the greatest matches to this day I've still ever seen. I'm going on a tangent, but the main point is 2006 was one hell of a year for that company.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Christian was obviously, it was a very big part of it.
Mm-hmm. But even so, it is good to see that he's like healthy again and able to wrestle again after all these years. Like, wouldn't have expected to see him in a ring, sending the crowd home with Frankie Kazarian and CM Punk at the end of a show.
No doubt. That's the best part about this is that he now gets the ability to kind of end his career on his terms because he clearly didn't get to do that before, clearly.
Right. It's weird that AEW is kind of formed into a lot of that. You have a lot of the older guys at the tail end of their careers: Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Chris Jericho, Christian, and even I'd lump CM Punk into that. He's 42, and it's contrasted so much in storyline and in real life with a lot of the young guys like the Darbys, which kind of leads me into what also might be the main event of CM Punk versus Darby Allin. And
would you put it as the main event? I'll ask you that. Would you put it as the main event?
No, I put the tag team titles as the main event.
Really? Even in Chicago?
Yep.
I'm one of those guys. I typically like to always think the title should be the main event. Mm-hmm. I do think this is the one time I think you can kind of make an exception. I personally do think the CM Punk Darby Allin match should main event. It's Chicago. It's his first big time match back.
No,
although,
right.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not 100% sure on who I think is gonna win.
Right, because the the conventional wisdom might dictate to you that, of course, it's going to be Punk. It's his first match back. Like, they're going to do that. But I feel like they could run the story of, does he still have it after all these years? And, like, it's sort of coinciding with his real life and kayfabe desire to work with the young guys and put over the younger guys. If the younger guys keep on beating him, then he starts to question himself, and maybe that leads him more defensively. Maybe that leads him into the eventual turn because he's a lot better as a heel. And
well, no debating that.
right, and you can see where that thing kind of goes. And I don't know if that's what they're planning, because I think one detail that I have noticed is in his initial promos, in mentioning the young guys, he never mentions any heels. He has not mentioned the guys that he has specifically said on Twitter that he wants to work with, like Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, and either way, he has not mentioned MJF, and we know we're getting that feud. But I think that's an important detail of his promos that he hasn't mentioned, is that as a babyface, he's only ever mentioning other babyfaces as the great young talent that he wants to work with in his promo. So it might start that way, and then there will be inevitable post-match brawls, inevitable, you know, shenanigans that beget feuds. Let's say it starts with Team Taz and then goes from there to something. But I feel like if it starts here with a loss, I could see it happening. I don't think it's likely, but I think he could lose to Darby. Then that might start on a downward spiral to sort of layer itself into the story that same way. There's a way you could do it, but if I'm picking between the two, I still think Punk's going over. In Chicago, I think he's winning.
You know, I had not thought of that idea before.
I feel like AEW gets the fantasy booking neurons firing in such a completely different way that I'm used to. It's normally like, oh man, WWE's probably not going to do this, but what if you took it this way? What if you like actually cared about the long-term storyline of everything that's going like this? But now it's like, oh, there's two distinct different paths they could take, and they sort of like branch off, and there's a clear logic to a lot of these different ways that they could go. It's more exciting because they all kind of feel possible.
I was so conflicted on it to the beginning, because I was kind of saying to myself, like, yeah, it'll be a good match, but you don't want. I was like, well, Punk is either gonna have to lose his first one back, or Darby's gonna end up losing to an established name, which he kind of wanted to avoid. So I got to be honest. At first, I was kind of looking at that, and I wasn't too sure, but I knew. I think we can all agree it'll probably very likely be a pretty good match. You know, unless it turns out Punk is completely lost and doesn't have it anymore, which I highly doubt that, but we'll certainly see. Yeah, I mean, I really don't. I guess there are a lot of different ways you could kind of take it. I'd like to, but I also think to myself, it's just like, I don't know how else I could see the first match back in Chicago ending other than, well, Punk is victorious and you get a nice pop from the crowd, because, well, how else are you going to do the triumphant return?
Right, it's the obvious answer, which goes in line with his return of like, there was so much speculation of what it was, how they do it, how it could be, and it was the simplest answer. They just open the show, play the music, get the pop, there you go. And it worked in that same way. So maybe that is just the simplest answer. Maybe Darby goes down to 1 GTS. Like, but I don't know. I think there's a few different branches here. I also think that would be a weird possibility. Maybe one they don't do is like his finisher gets kicked out of by Darby on the first thing, like just as a means of making Darby look good. I don't necessarily think they'll do that. It's going to be interesting to see, but my ultimate pick is that it's Punk.
I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of kicking out of finishers really to begin with. This ain't WWE 2K20.
Oh, right, yeah. God, No, I mean AEW is going to have their own video game, and Tony Khan has invested a lot in it for the sake of self-publishing, and I hope he's able to make that back because startups are in the red enough as it is. But
I'm glad you mentioned that because you know what? Honestly, Nick Khan and WWE have ruined wrestling video games.
oh, geez, right,
And so I say
the
Nick
eternally
Khan.
outdated roster.
Yeah, I say Nick Khan because honestly, like I can go. So I still have WWE 2K19. I never bought 20 because I heard of all the nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on 19 right now, and I swear to God, you can make an entire company roster.
Just out of people that have been fired.
Just out of people that have been released. It is by far the most ridiculous thing I ever seen, and it sucks because there's so many names in there that I'm so happy to have the chance to play as underrated names, and maybe it'll make me seem like a mark, but yeah, hey, I love playing as Eric Young. Why the fuck not? Eric Young's great. EC3, great. I love him.
Oh man,
even Jericho.
He's dropped off a bit, but I get what you mean. Yeah, he had a great. If we're talking about great TNA runs over the course of this this podcast, we'll mention EC3 too. But no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I don't know how we ended up talking about Impact so much, but that's how it goes. But yeah, I mean, seriously, at this point, if you're someone who wants to like play a wrestling game and actually have like a decent roster on it, well, first of all, because here's the sucky thing: I don't have PlayStation, so I can't get Fire Pro Wrestling World. I know it's probably one that a lot of y'all would mention, but I don't have a PlayStation, so that one's out for me.
I mean, I was about to mention it, and I have it on Steam, but I've barely touched it.
I don't own a PC. I don't own a PC yet either, so Steam is out.
I mean, it's not the most graphically heavy game in its own right, but yeah, I'd say just wait for the AEW game whenever it might happen to come out. And God, if
that would be the other part.
What's that?
Well, I was gonna say that would be the other part. I don't know. I don't know how that game will be feature-wise, how it will be. I mean, for me, the most exciting part of having a WWE game is being able to go online and download, all several different numbers of stars and make my dream matches and have a Kazuchika Okada versus John Cena match or Hiroshi Tanahashi, and why not? But I don't know if an AEW game will have that feature. That's something that's not an easy thing necessarily to implement.
We can't have or you mean like, I'm sure they'll have a creator wrestler, just not like, I don't know how they're going to deal with the Forbidden Door in digital rights form.
Well, more so talking about community creations where you have a creation suite and everyone shares their creations online.
Oh, I think that'll be just fine. I think there'll be an avenue for that. I don't doubt that in the slightest.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know yet, but we'll certainly see. I hope
don't know about it, but yeah, we will see. But there's all of our picks for All Out 2021, and I'd say how you let us know. Because this is episode 0, and we're just coming back to the Raging Buffalo again. I'm not sure too much on the official socials of the podcast. I'm certainly not running them. So if you have your own thoughts on who's going to win the matches at All Out 2021, just tweet them directly at Marcos. Just send all of your concerns, comments, tweets, replies, everything you ever wanted to get out of your mind, everything you ever wanted to rant about, just tweet it directly at Marcos. That's all you got to do.
Yeah,
where can everybody follow you, and where can everybody follow you and spew their bile in your mentions?
Well, you're not on Twitter, are you?
I am not, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, they can literally find me at Marcos J. Watkins. I'm the one brother that that you can find if you literally put that name in. There
you go, and that just about wraps up our wrestling talk. Is there anything else you wanted to address before we called it a show?
I probably should have left the weather mentions out here at the end. But no, listen, like I said, of course, again, gonna wish everybody best of luck, going forward. Hoping everyone's staying safe.
Yes.
If you're someone out there that's struggling, you need help, or you want help, or you're scared to ask for help, please don't feel any shame at all in asking for help. Okay, mental health is physical. It is just as important as regular physical health. Leave that message there. I think that's another very important thing to say, and I think it's going to be a great card on Sunday. At the end of the day, I really do think this will be an enjoyable show. I don't think it will be too hard to top the last big pay-per-view in the likes of SummerSlam, in my opinion, because personally, I have my own personal reservations about that show. It was very mixed bag, so I think we already have a few matches here that can definitely topple that one.
I have a good feeling that on our podcast on Monday, we will not be able to help just gushing about how much we loved this card to everybody else around that doesn't care as much about wrestling. But all that said, thanks.
And no, for the haters, we are not AEW shills. We just telling it how it is. You don't like it, oh well.
I mean, I wish you'd be paying me. Jeez. But yes, thanks very much, everybody, for listening, and we'll hope you join us again next time for the full Raging Buffalo show of episode 1, previewing the NFL season. Keep an eye on this channel, on this spot where you're listening in the coming week, and you'll be able to see it from there.